He was a man after God's own heart, yet he committed one of the most scandalous sins in biblical history. She was the wife of a loyal soldier, yet became the queen mother of Israel's wisest king. Their story begins not in battle or worship, but with a single glance, a bath in the moonlight, and a choice that would change the destiny of a nation. This is not just the tale of lust and betrayal. It's a story of heartbreak, judgment, mercy, and the mysterious grace of God. This is the story of King David and Bathsheba, the mother of Solomon. At the height of his reign, King David sat atop a golden age, victorious in battle, adored by his people, and resting in the splendor of Jerusalem. The kingdom was at peace, the enemies silenced, and the ark of God rested in the holy city. But while the land was calm, a hidden storm stirred within David's heart. Pride crept in quietly, and spiritual complacency took root. It was unlike him, the shepherd warrior, who once faced giants, now watched from rooftops. This moment of retreat wasn't rest, it was disconnection. David's absence from the battlefield wasn't just physical, it was spiritual. By removing himself from duty, he opened the door to temptation. And in that stillness, as the sound of war faded into the distance, another kind of war began inside his soul. In the silence of the palace, surrounded by luxury yet empty of purpose, David wandered alone. The cheers of victory were distant, the weight of leadership paused, but his heart was unsettled. Nights felt longer. His soul, once burning with passion for God, now wrestled with unseen shadows. He gazed from the rooftop, not seeking beauty, but escape. Loneliness crept in, disguised as rest. Restlessness haunted him, but from within. The king who once played his harp to calm Saul now could not silence his own spirit. In that quiet ache, desire stirred and danger waited in the dusk. As the sun dipped behind Jerusalem's hills, David stepped onto his rooftop restless, searching, unaware that his next breath would reshape history. Below, in the soft glow of twilight, he saw her, bathing in innocence, unaware of royal eyes above. It was just a glance, a fleeting moment, but something ignited. The king, once consumed by worship and war, now burned with a forbidden fire. That rooftop walk was meant for peace, but became a path to destruction. In one heartbeat, desire whispered louder than conscience, and in the still of that evening, David's gaze crossed a sacred line, and heaven held its breath. She appeared like a vision, graceful, unaware, and bathed in the golden hush of dusk. Bathsheba, pure and beautiful, was simply cleansing herself, following the laws of purification. But to David, watching from above, she was more than a woman. She was temptation incarnate. His eyes lingered too long. What began as a moment of innocent beauty became a wildfire of desire. She did not call for him. She did not seduce. Yet the king's heart pounded, overtaken by longing. In that silent moment, the war David had avoided found him, not with swords, but with sight, and his soul was losing. At first it was just curiosity. Who is she? A passerby might have looked away, but David lingered. His thoughts, once devoted to worship and justice, now wandered into dangerous territory. He asked about her, not as a king seeking wisdom, but as a man craving what was not his. The answers came swiftly. She is Bathsheba, the wife of Uriah. A boundary was drawn, but David's heart had already crossed it. Curiosity gave birth to temptation, and temptation grew into obsession. The king who once honored God's law now plotted to break it, all because he couldn't silence the voice of desire. Blinded by desire and emboldened by power, David did the unthinkable. He sent for her. His messengers obeyed, not daring to question the king's command. Bathsheba came, unaware of the storm she was walking into. She stood before him, vulnerable, innocent, and loyal to another. But David, the man after God's own heart, ignored the voice of heaven. Passion silenced principle. Authority overpowered integrity. In a moment of weakness wrapped in royal strength, the shepherd became the sinner. He took what was not his, and in doing so, tore through God's boundary. That night, a hidden fire consumed a holy throne. It was a night cloaked in silence, but heaven saw everything. Behind palace walls, David crossed a sacred line, and Bathsheba, bound by the power of a king, was pulled into a moment neither of them could undo. No music played, no angels sang, only the weight of sin thickened the air. This was not love, it was desire dressed in royal robes, betrayal disguised as intimacy. The bed where David lay became a battlefield, not of nations, but of conscience. That night, the man chosen by God broke the heart of God, and as darkness fell, so did the crown's honor. Bathsheba was a woman of purity, bound by loyalty to her husband, Uriah, a faithful warrior in David's army. Her life had been one of simple devotion, following the laws of her faith and her duties as a wife. Raised with grace and humility, she had no knowledge of the king's gaze upon her, nor of the dark fate that would soon alter her life forever. She wasn't a seductress or a woman of scandal. She was just a woman caught in the current of a powerful man's sin. Her innocence, untouched by the world's evil, would soon be broken, forever changed. The joy of that night quickly turned to dread. Bathsheba, now pregnant with David's child, sent a message to the king, one that shattered the fragile peace of his heart. "I am with child." Her words were not just a confession, they were a verdict, a reminder of the sin they had both tried to forget. What once felt like a secret pleasure now loomed like a storm. David, the king who had everything, was suddenly powerless. The kingdom's glory, his reign, and his soul were all at risk. One simple message had turned pleasure into panic, and the weight of guilt began to crush him. Panic gripped David's heart as the consequences of his sin loomed larger. His mind raced, desperately searching for a way out. A king's reputation was at stake, not just his own, but the nation's trust. He couldn't let anyone know the truth. His first thought, bring Uriah home, have him sleep with Bathsheba, and make it seem like the child was his. But Uriah's unwavering loyalty foiled his plan. David's desperation grew, and with it the darkness of his soul. Every move felt like a gamble, each more reckless than the last. The king, once a man of wisdom, was now drowning in his own web of lies. David's royal command, veiled in calm authority, masked the panic swelling within him. His voice, steady and regal, betrayed nothing of the storm raging in his heart. He ordered Uriah to return from battle, hoping to cover his tracks under the guise of military affairs. The king's words carried the weight of command, but his mind was a battlefield of fear. He spoke of honor, but his soul trembled with guilt. Behind the crown's veil of power, David was a man running from the consequences of his choices, desperately clinging to control, knowing it was slipping through his fingers. Uriah's return to Jerusalem was a stark contrast to the chaos inside David's heart. The loyal soldier, covered in dust and battle-worn, had no idea that his king's invitation held a deadly secret. David, now a king weighed down by guilt, forced a smile as he welcomed Uriah, honorable, steadfast, and completely unaware of the betrayal that had been committed in his absence. His honor shone brighter than the crown on David's head. Uriah's loyalty was unshakable, his focus on his duty to the king, unaware that the very king he served had destroyed everything he held dear. Uriah, weary from battle, could have easily embraced the comfort of home, but his heart remained on the front lines. David, desperate for him to return to Bathsheba, offered him rest, but Uriah's honor refused. "How could I enjoy this?" he asked, "when my brothers are fighting in the field?" His words were a testament to his loyalty, a loyalty David could not match. While David, trapped by his sin, sought refuge in deception, Uriah stood unwavering in his integrity. His refusal to rest in comfort became a silent rebuke to the king, a painful reminder of all David had sacrificed. David's web of lies began to unravel, and with each passing moment, the weight of his sin grew heavier. Uriah's unwavering loyalty, his refusal to go home, shattered David's carefully crafted plan. Desperation took root in the king's heart, and a dark decision emerged. With no other choice, David resorted to sending Uriah back to the battlefield, carrying his own death sentence. The king's hands, stained with guilt, pushed forward a plan that would seal his fate. What was once a simple cover-up now spiraled into a deadly game, and David's conscience, once a guiding light, was consumed by darkness. David, once a man of honor, now wielded his pen as a weapon. In his royal chambers, he wrote the letter that would seal Uriah's fate, place him in the front line, where the battle is fiercest, and retreat from him. The ink that stained the parchment was the blood of a loyal man. Uriah, unknowingly carrying his own death sentence, held the king's letter without question. Loyalty had bound him to David, and now it would lead him to his grave. The king's command, masked in royal authority, hid the truth. This was no battle. This was murder, sanctioned by the throne. Uriah, ever faithful, marched back to the battlefield, unaware of the deadly burden in his hands. The letter David had sealed with his own royal seal was a death sentence disguised as a command. With unwavering loyalty, Uriah carried the message, oblivious to its true meaning. His devotion to his king and country overshadowed any suspicion. He didn't know that the very king he served had condemned him to die. His honor led him to the front lines, where a fierce battle awaited, but the real fight was already over, his life sacrificed in silence by the hand of the one he trusted most. On the battlefield, David's treachery unfolded with cold precision. Uriah, unknowingly sent to his death, stood firm with his comrades, unaware of the king's betrayal. The orders were clear: place him where death was certain. As the battle raged, Uriah fought bravely, holding his ground, his loyalty unshaken. But the soldiers, obeying David's command, pulled back, leaving Uriah vulnerable. The enemy closed in, and in an instant, the man of honor was struck down. His life, so full of loyalty, was snuffed out in the silence of deceit. The king's crown stood high, but a loyal soul lay buried in the dust. Bathsheba's heart shattered as she stood over the body of her beloved Uriah. Widowhood came too soon, cloaked in sorrow and silent grief. Her soul ached, not only for the loss of her husband, but for the betrayal she had yet to understand. As she wept, the weight of her mourning was intensified by the shame she carried. Her body had been violated, her life upended by a king's lust and lies. And yet, in the midst of her grief, a royal summons arrived. David called her to his palace, a summons that would force her to face the man who destroyed everything she loved. David's marriage to Bathsheba was swift, a desperate attempt to cover his sins with a crown. The royal wedding, intended to restore honor, only deepened the scandal. Bathsheba, grieving and confused, was swept into the king's palace, her heart torn between duty and the haunting truth. The whispers of the court were loud. Was this a genuine act of compassion, or a king's attempt to hide his guilt? The truth of their union, born from betrayal, could not be erased. David's quick marriage to Bathsheba did not heal the wounds, it only covered them with the weight of royal responsibility and secrecy. A child was born from the union of David and Bathsheba, a moment that should have brought joy, but instead, a heavy silence hung over their hearts. Though the king's throne was secure, the Lord's displeasure was evident. The child, innocent in the eyes of man, was a reminder of a king's grievous sin. David's attempts to move on were met with divine rebuke. The child's birth, instead of a blessing, became a symbol of the brokenness that lingered in David's soul. The joy of new life was overshadowed by the unspoken truth. The Lord was not pleased. The prophet Nathan approached David with a story, seemingly innocent, but it carried the weight of divine judgment. He spoke of a rich man with many flocks, and a poor man with only one beloved lamb which he cherished like a daughter. When the rich man took the poor man's lamb to feast, David's anger flared. He demanded justice, but Nathan's words pierced through the king's heart as he revealed the truth. You are the man. The story was not just a tale, but a sword of truth, cutting through David's soul, exposing the depth of his sin and the consequences to come. David's fury erupted as Nathan spoke, condemning the rich man for his cruelty. That man deserves to die, he declared, certain of his righteous anger. But Nathan's words struck like a thunderclap. You are the man. In an instant, David's world crumbled. The truth, the weight of his own sin, crashed down upon him with devastating clarity. The man he had condemned was himself. His heart, once full of confidence and power, now trembled with guilt and fear. The royal robes felt heavier, the throne colder. David, the king, had been exposed, his sin laid bare, no longer hidden behind the walls of his palace. Nathan's voice rang out with the weight of divine judgment. "The sword shall never depart from your house." David's heart sank as the consequences of his sin were made clear. His actions had shattered the peace of his kingdom, and now the Lord's judgment would follow him forever. The family that once stood united in glory would now be torn apart by violence and betrayal. His own blood would rise against him. David, once a man after God's heart, now faced the bitter reality that his choices would haunt him and his descendants, forever altering the course of his dynasty. The royal palace was gripped by unbearable grief as the child, born from David's sin, fell gravely ill. David's heart, torn by sorrow, pleaded with God for the child's life. He fasted, he wept, he begged for mercy, but despite his desperate prayers, the child died. The king, once confident in his power, now stood broken, face to face with the consequences of his actions. Yet, in the depths of his mourning, grace was not far behind. David's repentance was heard, and from the ashes of loss, a new beginning would emerge. Solomon, the child of promise, would rise from the brokenness. David, crushed by the weight of his sin, fell to his knees in sincere repentance. His heart, once hardened by pride and power, was now broken before God. With tears streaming down, he confessed his wrongdoings, acknowledging the depth of his betrayal. "Create in me a clean heart, O God," he cried, his soul yearning for forgiveness and restoration. The king who had once taken what wasn't his now offered his heart completely to the Lord. In that moment, grace met him, and a renewed spirit began to stir within. David's repentance wasn't just words, it was a transformation of the soul. In the midst of grief and turmoil, Bathsheba's heart, shattered by loss, found a glimmer of hope. God, in his mercy, comforted her, wrapping her in a blanket of peace. David, too, found solace in her presence, and together they moved through their pain. The sorrow of the past gave way to a new beginning. Bathsheba conceived once more, and this time the child born was not a symbol of shame but of promise. Solomon, their son, was destined to be a king, a symbol of God's grace and redemption. In him, the brokenness of their past was transformed into divine restoration. From the depths of scandal and sorrow, God's redemptive grace brought forth beauty. Bathsheba, once the object of shame, now cradled a child, Solomon, whose very name would carry the weight of divine favor. Named Jedediah, meaning beloved of the Lord, Solomon was a living testament to God's ability to transform brokenness into blessing. What began in scandal would culminate in sovereignty. Solomon's birth was a profound reminder that with God, even the darkest moments can give way to a glorious future. Why Solomon? In the midst of a story tainted by sin and scandal, God's choice seemed mysterious yet purposeful. Solomon, born from a broken relationship, was chosen to lead Israel, not because of his lineage, but because of God's sovereign will. His birth was a divine paradox. From the ashes of David's failure, a king was raised. God's ways are often beyond human understanding, yet his plans are always perfect. Solomon's wisdom, his leadership, and his role in God's kingdom would prove that, even through the most unlikely circumstances, God can bring forth greatness, redemption, and unmeasurable grace. Bathsheba's journey from grief to grace was not just one of personal healing, but also of divine redemption. Once the mother of scandal, she now cradled the future king Solomon, destined to rule Israel with unparalleled wisdom. Through her son, Bathsheba's story found its purpose. God's grace redeemed not only her past, but the very legacy of her family. Solomon, her child of promise, would rise to lead Israel into an era of prosperity, his wisdom sought by kings and queens. In him, Bathsheba saw not just her redemption, but the fulfillment of God's plan for a sovereign and wise ruler. Thank you for watching this powerful journey through King David and Bathsheba's story. Your support means the world. If you found this video compelling, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with others who would benefit from this tale. Turn on notifications so you never miss an update.